Everybody, Ben for the Bone Podcast, and Blood Bowl 2025 Season 3 is here, and we're kicking off with some team guides. And we're going to start with the brand newest team to the brand newest edition of Blood Bowl, Bretonnia. Okay, so in each team guide we will cover the positionals, what skills they've got, what they do, and an example starting roster for if you've picked up the box, because in the 2025 edition that's kind of where you start with Blood Bowl. So Bretonnia, the newest team for Blood Bowl. So right from the top, Bretonnian, they have apothecaries. They are tier 1 potentially. The tiering, there's 4 tiers in this edition and they're going to change based on Warcom, so I've just put them at tier 1 for now. That could change. Check the Warcom download, I guess. The rerolls are 60k and they are Old World Classic. Now, this team's got no special rules. It is just Old World Classic are the type of inducements and star players that they have access to. So the roster for Bretonnia, you've got up to 16 Squire linemen. They are very useful human linemen. Basically a human lineman with 1 less armor, but they've got wrestle instead. Now, when you're playing out the Bretonnian team, everybody feels like a positioner. Like, low armor makes them very vulnerable, but the fact that they have got that wrestle skill, it is super key. So it's like the biggest thing to this roster being in the fight. You've got 0 to 2 knight throwers. Those are knights who throw. You've got 0 to 2 knight catchers. Those are knights who catch. Now, both those positionals have got Dauntless, which means you can fight players bigger than yourself with a lucky roll of the dice. They have got Nerves of Steel, which is a really key skill if you're going to throw it or catch the ball, because it ignores all the tackle zones on your player. So if you're in 2 tackle zones and you're throwing the ball, 0 tackle zones for you, and the same for catching. Now, they're both 3+, so it's a passing 3+, and it's a catching 3+, but with the fact that they've both also got, the thrower's got pass and the catcher's got catch, it means that it's a 3++ basically all of the time, unless it's sunny or rainy or something like that, unless there's weather stuff where you've got disturbing presence on it. Nerves of Steel is just going to mean that you can run up, chuck yourself in some tackle zones and throw the ball without hazard. Then you've got 2 Grail Knight Blitzers. I don't think they're actually called Blitzers. I think we're just calling them Blitzers because, for the love of God, they're Blitzers. Right, these are Knights. They've got Dauntless as before. They also come with Block and a brand new skill called Steady Footing. Now, the Catchers are movement 7, the Knights are movement 7, everybody else is movement 6. Right, the new skill Steady Footing, you would have already seen this on the Warcom, but this is the Steady Footing skill. So whenever this player would be knocked down or fall over, roll a d6. On a 6, this player does not get knocked down or fall over. If this happens during their activation, they may continue their activation as normal and no turnover will be caused. Now, this is a great little skill. We finally have a skill that protects you from POW, right? So the little dodge star with the little exclamation mark. If you get POW'd, you've got dodge, you're okay. If you get POW'd, no skill saves you, but when it comes to Steady Footing, you get a 6+ save. Now, this is useful if you're rushing. This is useful if you're taking dodges. This is useful if you're getting blocked. And I'm pretty sure it works if you skull yourself out as well. So it is like the ultimate Iron Halo for Blood Bowl. It's a really interesting skill. I can see maybe some dwarves taking this in the future just because that just would be hilarious. A 1-die block, and if I roll a skull on the 1, I get a 6+ save. Anyway, it is really quite a useful skill, and I quite like it, and I like the way it makes the team play out as well. Okay, so let's talk through the positionals. I'll put little graphics when I do this. So the Squire lineman. So movement 6, strength 3, edge 3+, passing 4+, armor 8+, 50k, and wrestle. So not 16 of them. These are the ultimate linemen. That they are. Movement 6 is perfectly doable, right? Movement 6 is the standard point for Blood Bowl. It's great for linemen. Obviously, movement 7 is better, but I take that. That's fine. Movement 6 is great. Strength 3 is great. Edge 3+ is great. Now, when it comes to agility, there's a kind of an additional thing you've got to consider now, which is the collect the ball. Oh my god, secure the ball action. So your player can run up to the ball, end their activation, and they get to pick it up on a 2+. It's not an agility test. So if you're a lineman that doesn't have unsteady, you will get the chance to do that. So movement 6, taking a couple of rushes, movement 8, and being able to secure the ball on a 2+ gives you that extra option if you don't want to just risk it on a 3+ with a lineman. But the fact that these are 3+ linemen and the roster in general isn't too expensive, and you're likely to end up with 3 rerolls if you want to. You can push for 4 rerolls, but I don't think I would. You've kind of got that extra flexibility as well. So the 3+ just means they're really useful. Passing 4+ means in a pinch they can quick pass on a 4+. Again, not ideal, not a chosen strategy, but a pretty okay fallback plan. Armor 8+ is the vulnerability with this player, which is they are a little bit splatty, but wrestle is going to keep them a lot safer than you'd think. It's not dodge, and it certainly isn't block, but wrestle will help you on defense as well. Sometimes your opponent is going to hit you with a blitzer, hit you with a dwarf blocker, and they're going to roll the both down, and they're going to have to take the both down, and you can choose to wrestle them. And with the fact that these players are Edge 3+ and movement 6, means that if you're wrestling them down to the ground, there's a lot of players that are going to hit you that is going to be worse for them. Plus, you are going to be able to stand up first. So the fact that these linemen are available, I really like it. Look, 50k makes them very affordable. Skills-wise, general on a primary and agility and strength on a secondary. Look, there's a lot of skills that combo nicely with wrestle. We want to see how Season 3 plays out more before we give too much advice. But when it comes to this, I mean, kick is always a great skill, but saving up to 10 SPP now for a double makes this much more... Okay, do I want to save up? Do I want to go for a dodge wrestle piece? Do I want to go for a guard wrestle piece? There's a lot of stuff you can do, and these linemen are actually super flexible. Next up, you've got the Knight Throwers. Okay, so these are your knights that throw. Like we said about earlier, they've got Dauntless, Nerves of Steel, and Pass. Pass giving you the reroll to make the pass section. Nerves of Steel ignoring tackle zones on you if you are marked, so ignoring the -1, -2, whatever, being tagged. And Dauntless means that when you block a guy, if they're bigger strength than you can roll a dice, add it to your strength, and if the total is greater than their strength, you count as being equal, which is so useful because it means that even your thrower, even your catcher, and especially your Grail Knight Blitzer are able to block strength 5 big guys on a simple roll of a 3+ dice. So with 1 support and a 3+, they are going to be 2 die blocking most big guys, which is definitely going to give you it's going to give you options, and that's kind of the key to the Bretonian roster here, is it gives you options, which is why I think I've enjoyed them quite so much. You're never really out. Right, the Knight Thrower, movement 6, perfectly acceptable. Not movement 7, but I mean, if that's the only bad thing you can say, I think that's fine. Strength 3, very good as well, useful for Dauntless. Edge 3+ is very useful. Passing 3+ is not bad. So if you consider Nerves of Steel tied into passing 3+, if you had a passing 2+ thrower and he was in a tackle zone, he would be performing the same way as your Knight Thrower. So if you think about the Knight wanting to potentially be around opponents, definitely something to consider about it. It's almost balanced. However, this is your thrower, and these guys are begging for block. We talked about this a couple of times on the end of our games. Yes, they've got general and passing as primary, and yes, they've got agility and strength as secondary. But with the throwers, like, you can go accurate and make them 2++ passing machines. That's wicked, but actually, passing is not going to be your primary strategy. You've got some good catchers, but actually having 4 blitzers, that's kind of where it's pretty tasty. So the throwers getting block is actually really good, or at least one of them. That gives you an extra block Dauntless piece, and it means they're carrying the ball well. Sure hands can also be quite useful for this if you don't want to just try securing the ball on a 2+ or just relying on your 3+ agility. Passing 3+, yeah, it keeps them serviceable. It's not amazing, it's not going to be your default, but it gives, I think it's that perfect balance where they can throw really well when they need to, or you can develop them to be a thrower, a proper thrower. And I might be tempted to take one of my knights on the roster and make them an accurate, sure hands, like the quarterback role, and have the other one be kind of like, you know, a fancy tight end. Saints fans looking at you with Hill. Right, armor 9+ means they're actually reasonably resilient, but I think if you're going to be putting your knight into tackle zones to make the most of Nerves of Steel, you're going to want block. And when you've got Dauntless already, block is pretty useful. 80k makes them pretty affordable as well. And of course, the thrower needs somebody to catch the ball, and it is the knight catcher. Now, very similar stats, but movement 7 here means that these are the fastest players on the team, up there with the Grail Knight Blitzers. Movement 7 is where you start cooking. So strength 3 means they're pretty strong. Edge 3+ means they're pretty reliable. Passing 4+ is actually pretty great. Now, what they've done in this edition is they take a lot of the positionals, and they've kind of given them a bit of a boost when it comes to passing, so that you've also got a knight catcher that on a 4+ can throw it 3 squares. that's pretty useful because he's already got Nerves of Steel. So there is a thing here where your Knight Catcher gets the ball, moves up, and actually ends up being tagged by multiple players. You've got a 4+ get out of jail free card. If your dodge is going to be worse than a 4+, you could just take the 4+ throw on a quick pass to get it out there. It's not ideal at all, but it gives you that extra option, and that is again where I think the Bretonian roster shines. Is there's always an option. It's never a good one, but there's always a 3+ or 4+ you can take to keep the play moving and to actually be in a really advantageous spot. Love that. So armor 9+, again, pretty resilient, 85k. This is an interesting one. So they get agility and general on a primary, and then secondary is strength. So you've got a couple of things here. I mean, your Knight Catchers, as soon as you give them block, they're up there as blitzers as well. It's really tough not to want to immediately take block, but dodge is also really key. So the Knight Catchers are going to be interesting because you've got the blitzers on the roster in the Grail Knights because they've got that movement 7, armor 10 and steady footing, but the Knight Catchers are going to be blodging very, very quickly. With movement 7 and them not having block, they're not going to be the ones you use for combat immediately, which means they are going to be the ones that probably get a couple of extra touchdowns, which means they are going to be the ones that get block first and then dodge, and then you're actually cooking. It depends on the meta of your league. I think having a dodge piece is actually pretty useful. It works nicely with Nerves of Steel, right? 3++ to catch it, and then I'm going to take a 3+ dodge out with a reroll. It's 3++ catch, 3++ dodge, and then you've got 7 squares of movement to kind of get in there. I think dodge first with a catcher is a pretty good route to take. Block is obviously the best skill in the game. It still is the best skill in the game, but that's an interesting one. 85k makes them pretty resilient, pretty affordable as well. So catching the ball, Dauntless to give you that, okay, well, I can try and just take a 1-die block with no skills. You need some friends. Nerves of Steel is going to be useful when you go for a handoff or a catch. So I think dodge for the catcher is a really good way to play. Okay, so the star of the show, question mark, is the Grail Knight Blitzer. Movement 7 puts him in line with the catcher, strength 3, edge 3+, and passing 4+. Also puts them in line with the catcher. Let me just double check that passing stat, because that is pretty good for a... Wow, all right, Grail Knights, you're throwing on a 4+. So these guys are just better catchers in theory. Now, they don't have Nerves of Steel, which means they're not going to be catching as well, but they do come with block, and block combos very nicely with Dauntless. This basically is going to be a player that on their own, with no friends and no better plan, can 3+, 1-die block a big guy with block. This guy can go toe-to-toe with Ogres. 2/3 of the time, it's going to give him a really hefty advantage. You chuck a friend on there, much better. Now, steady footing, we've already talked about this. This is the 6+ save that's going to keep you on your feet. If you make a rush and fail, if you make a dodge and fail, you roll a 6, you can carry on. It is phenomenally useful. It is phenomenally risky. You cannot rely on it, but it is just going to keep you playing sometimes. And I think that's a cool new angle. Like, you've always got the team rerolls, so you can keep your stuff going, but when you're out of rerolls, actually the Grail Knight Blitzer, I'm just going to take a dodge with him, because if I fail the dodge, I've got the 6+, and actually the 6+ means he staggers round in his armor, he stays standing, and he can carry on, which is brilliant. So with a block and Dauntless and that 6++, like that 6+ kind of stay on the ground thing, it means he has the potential to be very, very strong. Now, he's not strength 4, he's not going around and taking people out by himself, but he's very heroic in his actions. Movement 7's fantastic. Strength 3 is really good, combos nicely with his skills. Edge 3+ means he's very, very useful everywhere. Passing 4+ keeps him in the running, so when you need to go for a bit of a stretch play, your Grail Knight Blitzer is as useful as a lineman when it comes to throwing the ball. Historically, we've seen blitzers and stuff like that a bit penalised, so I love this. Armour 10+, with steady footing and block, and strength 3 is hopefully going to keep your Grail Knight Blitzer around for quite a while as well. Now, with general and strength on a primary and agility on a secondary, you have got the choice there to immediately just save up to 10 SP. Couple of casualties, or casualty MVP and a touchdown. Yeah, this guy's cooking almost there. You want to go potentially straight for dodge at that point. I can see Bretonians having a very blodge heavy roster because it benefits them. They're this weird kind of mid-range team where the linemen are very useful, but your main players have got interesting skills, but actually once they become blodgers, steady footing helps you even more. When you've got catch, Nerves of Steel and Dauntless, it helps you even more, and I can see that becoming quite egregious. I can see Grail Knight blitzers with dodge, and I can see the catchers getting blodged very quickly as well. And I think once you've got 4 blodging, even though it's Edge 3+, it's not automatic, it's going to be really potent. And I think that's kind of how the Brets are going to work. Standard linemen, useful throwers, the Grail Knight blitzers and the catchers being really potent and kind of just annoying. And I like that. I think that works. So 95k, they're quite expensive, but the way this roster works, you will be able to afford everybody, which is kind of fun at the start. And I think if you keep your league short, it will be all right. When it comes to the blitzer, it depends what you kind of league you're playing in. I mean, quite frankly, tackle is going to be useful if you're playing in an edge-heavy league. Mighty blow is going to be helpful against many teams. Guard on a Grail Knight, I don't know. I kind of see the Grail Knight as the hammer. But if you take a block on one of your other knights and take guard on your Grail Knight, you can really make the most of that Dauntless. So it is definitely something to consider. Like I said, though, we want to play more games with Bretonians before we go kind of full into here's how you develop your players. All right, so you've picked up a box of Bretonians. Here is the roster you can run out of it straight away. And this is the roster that we ran in all of our Bretonian lists so far, I think, on the channel. Okay, so 2 Grail Knights, 2 Knight Catchers, 2 Knight Throwers, 5 Squires. So you get 11 players and 3 rerolls and an Apothecary. So the biggest switch you can have here is you can drop the Apothecary and take an additional Squire. Now, in the first game that you play with Bretonians, you're going to lose a couple of players, and I would rather be able to keep one of my knights on the pitch, especially the guy with block and movement 7 or the catcher with movement 7. Like, they were a lot of useful players, but I do not mind having that 12th player. The Apothecary kind of works as half a player, so you can either go with 12 players and 6 of them are Squires, or 11.5 players, and that half player can be one of your key players. Now, if you're playing match play just straight out the box, maybe run the 12th Squire and don't worry about it. But if you're playing League, having the Apothecary to put in there just to keep your Grail Knight or your Catcher or your Thrower just developing, so you don't then have to fork out another 80, 90k to kind of replace that player in a League environment, I think is the best investment. Plus, by the end of the first game, you should have a couple of TDs. You are likely to be able to afford a Squire to kind of build out that roster. And quite frankly, that's where this team goes. You want to keep your positionals positionaling, and you want to keep your linemen on the line dying, but everybody can do something else. It's a really interesting roster. This out of the box is very simple, but it does really work, and you will get the Bretonian experience just running this. Now, this comes to the question of, are you going to need a second box? Yeah, probably. Probably when it comes to Bretonians, because of how quickly your Squires can die if Wrestle doesn't help. You do probably want an extra Squire. I think 13-man roster is probably where you're going to end up with Brets. I think you're going to end up farming and replacing in a league. If you can get to 13 Squires, I think you're fine. Rerolls, I don't... Because you've got Wrestle, because you've got Block, because you've got Pass, because you've got Catch, because you've got Secure the Ball now, because you've got a bit of Dauntless to save you, because you've got Steady Footing, I don't think you need any more than 3 rerolls. Now, I wouldn't be pushing it any less than 3 rerolls, because actually the 3 rerolls means that the players that do stuff can keep doing stuff, and I really like that. And that kind of works with the Apothecary as well, right? You've got 3 rerolls and Apothecary. That's just going to keep your players who can do stuff doing the stuff you want them to do. And the fact this comes out a nice round million is golden. I think you just need to find an extra Squire model. As in League, you're going to lose a positional at some point, and I think having up to 13 in a really good place is fine. 14's too much, I think, unless you're really bloaty, unless the other teams are really bloaty. But you are going to need an extra lineman there somewhere. So there you have it. The overarching theme and vibe of the Bretonian team is that it's a very useful team. Every player can do stuff, and I really, really, really like that. It's not overpowered, but there will absolutely be games where you're playing against Bretonians where you're like, oh, they wrestle, and this guy's got block, and this guy's got Dauntless. Okay, fine. It's going to be really fun. But we've seen this before with Bretonians. If they snowball, they can snowball. So it's a really good addition to Blood Bowl. The Knights feel different than other players, and that's actually quite good. And the Squires, I mean, you'd be surprised if I, as a Skaven coach, didn't like an Armor 8+ wrestle lineman. I think that's very useful indeed. Anyway, let us know what you think of the new Bretonian roster in the comments below, and we'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking.